Coach Wendell talked about, and you said it after the game too, that got to have. I saw a lot of you players tweet it too. Got to have that quick start, just like you're having in the second half.
Yeah, and not necessarily a quick start, but just like a start where you don't put yourself in a hole, and obviously the hole ended up being insurmountable, and that's the one thing we got to do is we got to give ourselves a chance to win ball games, and with the way we started off the game and the way we competed in the first half, we don't give ourselves a chance to win the game. So, I'm not happy. I know a lot of people were patting us on the back about the way we came back and competed in the second half, and got it to a point where it was a 3-point ball game with Rockquiz up on the line, shooting 2 free throws. So he should have cut me. He could have cut it to 3 instead of 5. But I'm not satisfied with that. I mean, it's great. Our guys came back and played hard, but we got to do better in the first half and not put ourselves in those situations.
What did you guys do well in those final, 8 minutes or whatever to get you back in that game? And when you watch the film, do you notice some things that maybe you didn't notice when the game was going on?
Well, we forced some turnovers. Like it's always better to play basketball when you force turnovers and you're playing in transition. You're playing with advantage basketball. So we were able to get out in transition and make some things happen. And we finally hit a 3-pointer, which we hadn't hit the whole game. So I think we hit two 3-pointers in that stretch. In transition during that time. So I think the biggest thing is we scored off of our defense.
You talked about the assist to turnover ratio. I mean, didn't turn it over as much in the second half. Do you feel like things are improving there, or was that just maybe a factor of what Providence was doing late?
I think it's a factor of Providence. I mean, they played a 2-3 zone the whole game, so there wasn't any pressure. No one was in the passing lane, so you really shouldn't have a high turnover rate when you're playing a team that plays 2-3 zone the whole time. So I'm thinking it was more of a faction of like the way Providence played defense. But we'll find out when we continue to play more basketball games.
Is there a trend or anything, obviously, that you noticed in these, slow starts away from home?
I wish I did. If I did know it, I would try to rectify it. But
you feel like it's something different every time, or do you feel like that there's some themes that you can hit on at least?
I think the theme is inexperience. Like I think one is the inexperience, and two is like trying to find guys that can score the basketball. I think our guys are, trying to play good defense, but if you continue playing defense all the time without having any success on the offensive end, guys get their heads down a little bit. So, we talk about like, continue to get stops, but they're young kids, so they get their heads down a little bit when they don't have success on the offensive end. And sometimes our defense ends up lacking because of that. But I would say the two biggest problems is like one is our inexperience, and then two, just our lack of scoring.
What do you know about Texas San Antonio? What have you seen from them so far?
Well, they're ball screening offense. They have a really skilled kid at the 4 spot that can make some things happen, but they want to spread you out and get some dribble penetration and try to get some situations where those guys can catch and shoot on the perimeter. So, from what I've seen, Coach Flanagan has a scout, and we've met a lot about it. We got to make sure we keep those guys out of the lane so we're not in help situations all the time and giving up threes. But they got a really good point guard in Hale who can make some things happen. We got to keep him contained and under control.
Looking at lack of time he got last year, Roquez has been pretty consistent for you, especially on the backboards. I mean, what he was, when you came in here and people talked about last year, it was Jalen and Wendell coming back. He was very, hardly mentioned. What have you seen from him that's helped him make those strides this year?
Well, that's the one thing I continue to try to point out, from what I've seen in the individual workouts. Roquez was a kid that just played so hard in our workouts and competed. And a kid like that is always going to have a chance to play, a lot of minutes for me. And so I know everybody kept talking about Jalen and talking about Wendell, but that's all. I always make sure I mention Roquez because I knew he was a kid that's going to be able to play a lot of minutes for us because of how hard he competes. He just has a nose for the basketball, and so he gets, offensive rebounds, he gets loose balls, he finds advantageous ways for him to score. We got to continue now to try to put him in situations where he can help us score the basketball because I think he has an ability to drive to the basket. We got to get him isolated some or let him find his way in the motion offense where he can get to the rim and make a play. But sometimes he tries to do it too early in the possession, and everybody knows that he's going to drive the basketball and he's a focal point of our offense. We've got to give him some spacing opportunities to try to go make a play.